Hey everybody, what's up? What's going on? And today I want to talk about preconceived notions. And for me, this is kind of a sensitive issue because, in my eyes, preconceived notions, the whole thing is a little bit of a slippery slope in my eyes. I feel like there's no direct answer, and I feel like on either side it just begins to fall quickly, kind of. And I think that we can all agree that not having preconceived notions are good, are mostly, I guess. Obviously, let's just jump into it right off the bat. I'll tell you what sparked the thought in me. Today I was sitting in a night class that I was talking about just previously about why you shouldn't take night classes. And it was that specific class period, and I'm sitting in the lecture hall. I'm sitting in my seat in the very last row, and I'm in about the middle of the last row. The middle of the last row. But I got there right on time, so to say. I got there right when class was beginning to start, and so I didn't have a whole lot of options open. Usually I like to go on the last row or one of the in the back on an end, on an aisle seat. Obviously the most coveted seats in lecture halls. So I didn't make that, so I'm sitting in the middle of this row, and I'm in the back, so that's fine. But then this other guy comes in even later than me, and the first thing he does, he just stops. He comes in, opens the door, stops, kind of just like stops right in front of the door, looking around. He's kind of making like a small scene, not too much. He comes over, and I see him start walking to the back of the room, and I'm like, fuck, please not me, please not me, please not me. I have no one sitting on either side of me. Not many people do. We have enough room to not really have to, like, there are places that you could go sit that aren't next to me where you would not be right next to someone. And of course, just out of all the open seats, statistically speaking, why the one or two that are right next to me? And so he comes in and he's talking, making noise and talking to people. He's really being pretty disruptive. He's moving through the aisles like kind of loudly, and the entire time I'm thinking, oh great, I'm gonna be next to this guy. He's gonna come in late. He's gonna be distracting, and he's gonna distract me. He's gonna this guy's gonna want to talk to me. It's just gonna be a bad person to sit next to. It's like seeing the fat guy coming in looking down the row when you're on an airplane. And so, he sits down next to me, and then he starts talking to like this girl that's sitting, a couple seats away from me, because he can sit next to me, and then he had an open spot, actually two open spots, and then the girl. And he decided to sit right next to me. And so he's talking to her about, oh, is this the right class? And it's like, come on, man. And then he starts talking to me in the middle of the lecture, and then he's looking at my notes. And he's like, he'll miss something, and maybe I caught it, so he'll look at my notes to see what I wrote down. And I just don't like that, because it's not like, we're not friends, dude. Like, if you were my friend, we came into this with that understanding, that would be cool. But this is my paper, my notes, and I just don't want you reading I didn't write my notes for you. I wrote my notes for me. And I'm also a little bit self-conscious of, like, not my handwriting, but like sometimes, especially in lecture classes, if I don't, like, I'm terrible. I'm a terrible speller. And if I need to hurry, I know, like, I don't know this word off the top of my head or something. I might just abbreviate it poorly, spell it wrong, or just something that I know for me. And like, I don't want someone else seeing that and being like, oh, this stupid fuck. And so it's a night class, like I mentioned earlier. So that means it's a lot longer. It only meets once a week. And so we have a break halfway through. And he goes out, and he comes back late from the break. He comes back really late, about 5 minutes late from the break, which, 5 minutes doesn't sound like a whole lot, but 5 minutes in terms of being late to a class, like a lecture, is it's definitely standoutish and notable. You're definitely into the lecture. You've missed some information at that point. And so he comes in, and he has fucking nachos. And I see the box that he has, and I know that there are nachos inside. He got it from Moe's. And so he's sitting down next to me, and he sits down, he pops open this thing, and he's like, hey man, you want some nachos? And I was like, no man, I don't want any nachos. And he offers the girl some nachos, and he starts talking a little bit, and like I said earlier, it's rude to talk, especially when this person has prepared a whole lecture, a 2.5 hour lecture. And, you start talking in the middle of it. And so, he was saying funny shit, offering nachos. He's like, oh, she probably hates me right now. Like the teacher, the professor. And it's just, he was kind of being funny and not terribly disruptive, but he was being disruptive. But in the grand scheme of things, he wasn't really doing anything. And by the end of that class, I was, more concerned about potentially what this guy was going to be whispering to me than the lecture. So I know that kind of ended out poorly, so to say, like morally, or however you want to describe me, being interested in the person next to me than being interested in the lecture at hand in front of me. But, it's just something that made me think about preconceived notions, that I came into this class, not this class, but I came into the situation thinking that this guy was going to be a complete shithead to be sitting next to a complete, I was going to hate the experience. I was going to wish that I had just skipped the class, and I, walked out of there thinking, like, oh, well, maybe this was a good exchange. It was fun. I learned. I didn't really learn about him, but I made a small no homo connection with this guy, and it was just a little bit interesting that way. So it just kind of made me think about preconceived notions in context to everything else, and a lot of it was like, okay, what about making sure my future experiences don't have any problems with preconceived notions? Okay, well, it's hard to do that all the time. Preconceived notions can be good. If it looks like a duck, smells like a duck, and acts like a duck, it might be a duck. And so there's one side of me that wants to be very realist about this, and there's another side of me that's kind of, wants to go on complete opposite side. That's like, well, maybe you should be more open to things like this. Every experience is has no preconceived notions. And having a no preconceived notion, in my eyes, isn't that having a preconceived notion? To not have one is to have one. Is that, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a little bit like an atheism and religion situation right there. But I think can be very detrimental to you to walk into a lot of situations with without preconceived notions. There's always a lot of situations where people who are really big on preconceived notions, like, oh, nothing, and nothing should be preconceived and everything like that, and they think about it in their daily life. It's a big part of their worldview. When I think about that, I just think about, well, like, I understand that trouble doesn't always enter people's lives via portals that are easy to pick up on. Like, a person pointing a gun at you, that's obvious trouble. But it doesn't start there, So in my eyes, there's always a situation. You can always get yourself into some danger without having any preconceived notions. Like, oh, well, just because this guy is, fits a stereotype of a gangbanger, not just like a black guy, like a gangster, like a Crip wearing red and with flashing gang signs, like a real gangster. Like I maybe shouldn't trust this guy with things like my life or my wallet or my car or things like that. There are a lot of preconceived notions like that I think are really good, and I think I feel like it's a flaw in the whole life/worldview of not having any preconceived notions. But that's all the time I have. Thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Maybe if you made it this far, I've earned your like. I'll see you guys later.